you see a relatively large terminal station. It's a little difficult to see, but this thin train makes a curve to enter the station. Again, the train is almost the only thing moving, so it attracts the audience's attention. The audiences speculate that the story begins when the train stops. The altitude drops step by step. You see? This is very high. The view from an altitude of over 1,000 meters switches to several hundred meters where you can visually identify each building. Then, you get a view at an altitude of about 100 meters. It's also difficult to see in this image. But this train has entered the station and has come to this point. And it stops. When I first saw it, I thought that the story starts when I saw the train stopping at this point. However, the story did not start. Instead, the train leaves the station. From this curved motorway, you can see the buildings far ahead, and you can slightly see the train which starts moving again. So, you first see the bird's eye view of a big city, Tokyo, and then you see a terminal station in a rather rural area. The train stops there, but leaves the station toward a more austere, darker place without these buildings. It's headed to a rural suburb. Then, next you see a balcony of World Emporium, a local antique shop to be visited in the film. In the balcony, an old man is relaxing, and then you see the train we saw, running far over the handrail of the balcony. The scene changes step by step toward the rural side, with the camera following this train and with the altitude gradually decreasing. A railroad crossing, finally the camera is at the ground level. There is a railroad crossing and a woman waiting for it to open. The train slows down and stops at the station. The train stops at the station and a door for a conductor compartment first opens, and then the doors for the passengers open. The details are carefully depicted. This woman slightly turns her head when the train passes by. Her sight is following the train. What a meticulously constructed scene. So the camera has practically descended to the ground level. The story finally begins with the train stopped. The next scene is this closer side is the station. Many people who were on the train come out from the station. So in summary, you first see the bird's eye view of Tokyo from 1,000 meters high. The camera keeps following the train as it's headed to the suburb, which finally stops at a small station with a railroad crossing. And any people come out. And now you see a convenience store right here, an actual existing convenience store franchise, and people are heading towards it. Then you see the protagonist, Shizuku, as she comes out from the convenience store with a blank expression on her face and with a single carton of milk she bought in her hand. The protagonist finally appears. This is not a dramatic entrance of the protagonist you typically see in Miyazaki films. Very subtle expression. From high up in the sky, the camera gradually descends and shows the people moving toward the convenience store near the station. The protagonist is the only one coming out from the store, so she stands out. Well, I strongly feel that this is definitely Miyazaki's film. Toshio Suzuki and Isao Takahata made some comments in a book about the whisper of the heart, proving my point. They said that it was an experiment to see whether a Miyazaki film can be made without Miyazaki, a huge experiment. And they said it was successful. In Ghibli's textbook, Suzuki said, "We did succeed in making a Miyazaki film without Miyazaki, but I'm still not sure it was a good thing or not. You can find many traces of Miyazaki he left in this animation film. For example, my personal favorite is the one where he did something he rarely does in his movies. Shizuku, in a scene close to the ending, feels so embarrassed after showing her first novel she wrote to the old man who owns World Emporium. The old man says it's amazing. But Shizuku goes on saying, "No, it's not, I'm so embarrassed." And in the next scene, the two have hot noodles because her body got cold. Frankly, this scene is so erotic. The girl shows something that makes her more embarrassed than taking off her clothes for the first time in her life to this old guy who is like a mirror image of Miyazaki. And then comes the scene where they slurp noodles, like after they had an affair or something. Only this scene in the entire film has an oddly erotic atmosphere. When I saw it, I thought, okay, Miyazaki slightly slipped it in. You see, he is very good at less noticeably slipping in an erotic sequence. You can also see that in Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. Nausicaa, captured by a Pejite man, screams, "Aspel!" And in that scene, her breasts are shaking. I mean, a lot. This is pointed out by Hideaki Anno. "This breast shaking is really something," he said in the audio commentary. He further went on saying, Miyazaki was the first one to show breast shaking in animation. Explain this in detail. It's this scene. She screams, "Aspel!" in anxiety. She leans back and her breasts rise to her chin. Then she leans forward so the breasts come even higher than the chin level. And then the breasts come down again. This major breast shaking sequence. I bet no one watching the broadcast version on TV finds it erotic. They just think that it's nothing more than a scene naturally showing Nausicaa's anxiety. But I heard Miyazaki and the production team went crazy in this scene saying it's so sexy. This is what Miyazaki does. Another example is pointed out by Katayama. Nausicaa flies out on her glider from Pejite's aircraft. Then, after that, there is a scene where she flies like this. Katayama saw it and revealed that when Miyazaki was drawing the scene, he was giggling and saying, "She's flying out there with her legs wide open like that. She has no decency." Anno said he's an old guy to give Miyazaki a break. Katayama responded, he was drawing the scene saying, "What a shameless girl." And Anno replies, "Oh, that poor old man." This conversation is in the audio commentary. He slipped in such a scene during a tense scene where audiences get too nervous to care about such a detail. It's more like, if you find this erotic, you will be ashamed of yourself. This scene as well. If you find this scene erotic, you will be ashamed of yourself. And this scene. If you find this erotic, you will be ashamed of yourself. Like this, the old man loves to slip in erotic scenes. He draws it while giggling. This kind of trace of Hayao Miyazaki you can find relatively a lot in the Whisper of the Heart, and that's interesting. Later, Katayama starts to talk about things completely unrelated to what they're watching. He asks, "You know, there was Kushana's awakening scene before the awakening of the warrior." Anno replies, "Nope. It was a scene where Kushana was brought back to the castle for recovery. Specifically, she was in the amniotic fluid, like liquid to heal her wounds. In the awakening scene, an artificial uterus splits open and the fluid pours all over Kushana, and she comes out in a bloody mess from the fluid. So there was a scene where, like a mother giving birth to her child, Kushana comes out with blood like red fluid all over her body. Miyazaki cut that scene as well, saying there's not enough time in this movie. So like this, it's Miyazaki's signature move to slip in a bloody sequence or an erotic sequence in a relatively tense place. He slips it in as an important scene in a drama, so it's less noticeable. The Whisper of the Heart also contains scenes that obviously do not seem like the one Miyazaki will make. Scenes that seem kind of odd, like this one, I think. The very last final scene. In this scene, the boy hugs the girl saying, "Shizuku, I love you." You see the angle of his leg? He stretches his leg straight as a ramrod right here. Okay, it does not have to be like a ramrod. I know it. It doesn't. The audiences are all glued to his surprising line, "Shizuku, I love you." But what makes this scene seem kind of odd is, I blame this ramrod leg. These little odd scenes, that's another reason why. I just don't get Whisper of the Heart.